every night, Monday to Friday, here on the channel, we do a deep dive, an intellectual deep dive about the most intense debates, the most controversial topics, the most urgent subjects going on in the world today. But with Office Hours, we want to go a little bit deeper with some folk who I think can help us understand things at a different level. And today, I already gave you a flash of them. I'm joined right now by two amazing guests, Christina, Khalil, and Chibu, Asonye. And these are two incredible candidates for the Green Party, of which I am a member, full disclosure, and have been for 2 decades. And I am excited to talk to them about Green Party elections, about down party balloting, but also about their specific and particular campaigns. And the reason why I think it's important to have this conversation tonight is because so often the conversation about the Green Party, the conversation about third party balloting is only about the presidential election. And there are people who use the pretext that, well, you can't win a presidential election. Oh, you can't win. You can't beat them. So it's a waste of time. Even if we were to accept that premise, right? If we accept that premise, that doesn't negate the fact that there are numerous local elections that are quite winnable. And those quite winnable elections are absolutely spaces where we can advance a radical politics, where we can advance a progressive vision, where we can actually change the way the world operates. I never want us to lose sight of the fact that we control our own destinies and that we can shape how our world works with struggle and with organized struggle. And voting is certainly a tactic. And so what better way to talk about it than to bring up two amazing candidates who are running for two very important offices. Christina Khalil is running for the U.S. Senate in New Jersey, and Chibu Asonye is running for the House of Representatives in District 13 in Illinois, both running under the Green Party, both amazing people. And I'm so glad to have you both here in Office Hours.
Chibu, you want to go first?
I would say thanks for the invite. I would probably be watching here anyway, so now I get to talk, not just be in the comments.
That's dope. That's dope. That's dope. So first of all, and this is for both of you, sort of, what made you all make the decision to be third party, forget candidates, just members? Like, you know, there are a lot of people who say the way to change is from within. You should be the radical voice in the Democratic Party to drag them to the left. You can win the election and have your kind of political vision heard in a certain way. What made you say, no, third party is the way to go?
Okay, Chibu, is okay if I go first?
Please do.
Okay, so it's no surprise. Anyone who really looks me up will see that I started as a progressive Democrat in this race, and I wound up making the switch. And the reason I made the switch was during my time and meeting different Democratic leaders within the state of New Jersey, they smiled at me, they told me what I wanted to hear, and then when push came to shove, they said that they were going to stand behind Menendez and support their donors, not support candidates with progressive policies. And it became apparent where I was pushed into a corner, and I said, I have this platform, I have this passion. Do I just give up? And also seeing how they treated progressive Democrats within their own party and how they push the corporate candidates and the corporate politicians up, and they really knock and hurt and push out the progressive Dems out. And even if it comes to redistricting the votes, so to push their candidates, the progressives out and their candidates in, they do it in multiple different ways. So I saw what was happening. They told me directly, which I'm thankful for them being upfront and honest eventually. And I just had a decision to make at that point. So I went with the Green Party. I met with them. I learned about their platform. They liked me. I love them. And I said, if I'm going to put my energy into this, I had one requirement. I said, I want a full slate of candidates in New Jersey in order me to switch to be your Senate candidate. And we do have an actual full slate of Green Party candidates in New Jersey. So that's where I wound up making the switch, because now the goal is to grow and build the party infrastructure and build our groundwork with local candidates. I'm even helping and working with some city council members currently for their election coming up as well. So it's about getting the progressives in and pushing the corporate spineless cowards out.
Yes, go New Jersey. I'll jump in too. I'm in Illinois and I'm 27, so my whole life it's been Democrat, 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 and all of the issues I've seen in my state have unfortunately, as a result, been due to like the Democratic Party. And the last 4 years, really, I told myself that this past 2020 election, I was not going to vote for any more warmongers. I was happy that it was done, and I needed to. I'm finally an adult now, and I can have an independent choice. So I have the time and the luxury of looking and researching. So I told myself, "You're going to do it." And the Green Party in Illinois is like the third biggest party, and the Environmental Party, and there are the folks who like were willing to work with me with the idea of running candidates within the next 10 years. So in my community, I'm in central Illinois. And so the libertarians were pretty big here. And we have Republican spaces, but there's not really a progressive voting like apparatus because Chicago doesn't allow any kind of changes within the larger state. And that's part of why I go to Congress. I want to be anti-war. I'm an anti-war candidate, so I wanted to join an anti-war like political party. I do believe that elections have a place in the revolution, not the only role, but a role. And I want to allow people in Illinois to have a lesser of two evils. And so I realized if they are stuck with two evils, I can build a non-evil party so that way they can have more options in the future. And so I was like, I want to think 5-10 years. And the Green Party said, we'll help you. And the Illinois Green Party said, yeah, let's try it. Let's do it. We want to do these things. And they like my optimism, which is appreciated.
We all appreciate the optimism. I want to think about some of the things that are often said. And I'm looking at the comments right now. And so I want to talk about and talk through some of this. There are people who say vote strategically, not your values. Now, I feel like a lot of people here are just doing the normal Democratic talking points. And the reason I say that is because even at a moment where we're not talking about the presidential election, people are still saying, I won't let Trump win. It's like people are programmed. People are literally programmed. Like, look at this. I will never be a party to Trump winning this election. If the Green Party was an option, they have won at least one election by now. The Green Party has won one election. We've won 2 elections. We've won 100 elections. We've won 200 elections. We've won 500 elections. The Green Party wins elections. But if you can only think about the presidency, then you're not even giving yourself an opportunity to think through what's possible for building a radical political movement. I'm not here tonight to even debate about whether you should vote for Kamala, Trump, or Jill. I have my opinions on that, and we can talk about that. But I'm saying right now, at this moment, let's think about a bigger vision, right? You don't have to vote Democrat, right? And at this moment, even if you vote for Kamala, you can still vote for Christina if you're in New Jersey. Even if you vote Kamala, you can still vote Chibu if you're in Illinois, Central Illinois. So that's a non-issue. So let's get past the actual talking points and have a real conversation about what it means to build, what it means to build something here. Chibu, when we think about building a party, what are the principles, what are the main values, what are the main agenda items that the Green Party, in your estimation, either should be advancing or is currently advancing?
Is currently advancing ranked choice voting, particularly when it comes to in Illinois, and ballot signature reform. So those are the 2 key things that the Illinois Green Party and I are working on this election and for the 2025 and 2026 elections.
Okay.
And so I guess kind of to elaborate, for some folks who may not know, in Illinois, it's an absorbent amount of ballot signatures that we need to get on the ballot. And the Illinois Green Party, though it has been a active member of our community for several decades, it's not considered a majority party. So we have to get 5% or 10% of the governor's race to have like lower ballot signatures. For my particular position, I needed to get over 12,710 signatures, but wow. It being challenged, yes, No one in Illinois realizes it's that difficult until they like
That's
talk to
insane.
you. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And I want to point out that I chose the Green Party to continue ballot line access, but there's several independents who are I was able to meet in this conversation and in these times who were like, I'm an independent, so there's no one else that can come after me, and even mine is still 12,000, 25,000. Like, it's ridiculous. So the Democrats made that rule, and that's for me. I'm a congressperson. People really like me. People like my ideas. You know, I'm young, I'm progressive, I'm like optimistic, I'm the future of the country and all that fun stuff. But only because I'm unhappy with these two parties and I'm willing to put in the effort there. And it's a presidential year. People don't want me to even exist, even though I want to point out at every farmer's market, at every rally, at every huge community event in Decatur, Illinois, everyone said, I'd love to see you on the ballot, even if I didn't want to vote for you. But the problem is,
go figure, it's called democracy. Like, hey,
it's literally called democracy.
Yeah, I don't have to vote for you to want you to be there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's interesting to me, Christina. What are some issues that, or either things that are going on that you'd like to see going on with the Green Party that sort of it represent the platform, the best vision of the platform?
I'm going to have to say it's one of their core principles. It's the grassroots work. The reason being is, so I've been involved when it comes to insurance, when it comes to policy writing, grant management, grant writing. So I have a lot of backdoor experience, backroom experience. So the current candidates running the slate, they work for the corporations. What the Green Party does, because we are grassroots, I can work for the voters. I don't owe a debt to somebody that's given me $1 million toward my campaign. I get to fight and work toward the platforms and the progressive policies that we all share and that we all want. Now, what's a shame is that people truly believe that the two-party system, we can push them left, we can do this, we can hold people accountable. At no point is that ever going to happen, because that would have already happened. And right. Two, they're never going to give that money back to their donors and say, here's, your $500,000 back, or here's your $2 million back. They're never returning that money, and they're going to say, yes, whatever you need. So so that would be what I really love about the Green Party, because I have to sign a contract. And even if I were to, the goal is to win. So if I do make it to office, if I do take corporate donations, I always have to be transparent and share. Like, I have multiple people right now that just have access to my bank account, and if there's any questions, I have to be able to answer it. So if I'm in office and somebody, if I take a mega donor, the Green Party will pull me and say, we no longer support Christina. We kicked her out of the Green Party. Mm-hmm. And so, and that's where I really like it, because there does seem to be accountability, and I like accountability when it comes to currently, there's no accountability at all. It's everyone never has an answer. Everyone's like, I don't know. So that's what I like.
Let's I want to go to a question from Douglas Scott. And I know you all are beginning to answer this, but I think people want to hear even more. So I'm going to push you a little bit on this. Douglas Scott said, besides environmental issues, what else is the Green Party agenda? So, obviously, the environment is what some people think we're only about, right? But you started talking about it, Chibu, so maybe I'll go to you. This idea of being anti-war. When you think about not just what's happening in this genocidal war in Gaza, or the recent invasion of Lebanon, but if we think globally, how does the Green Party think about war, and how does that play into your own campaign in terms of what you would do as a candidate or as a member of Congress?
As a member of Congress, it's our job to declare. We're meant to declare war, which we haven't done in several years now. It's also We're also meant to keep our military accountable. We have chosen as a society to have civilians in charge, so that way we're not constantly on like a war economy and not constantly trying to expand. We had civilians so that we can temper our less positive sides, I guess, but our more like empire sides. And that's why we have a civilian chief. in the Green Party, we want a peace economy. So we say we're pro-peace, pro-people, pro-planet, yes, and pro-labor. But it's an ideology shift. So ultimately, we're going to have to shift how we focus our economy, and that's part of why, yes, that's where the environmentalism kind of comes in, but it is a means to a larger sustainable future and a just society. And so I also think about like prison reform, education reform, and student loan forgiveness, which is something that's also on the Green Party like platform, all of which are things that Congress and the federal government have a very direct stake in.
Absolutely. Christina, what say you when you think about these issues? Obviously, you know, I suspect you agree with what Chibu said about war, but feel free to add on to that. But then there's these other questions, maybe even drilling down more on the question of Israel-Palestine. I mean, right now, people are dying. What do we do?
Well, right now, what all I can do and what millions of Americans could do is we protest, we make our phone calls, and we write our letters. But what we can do and what we should do is we should be going to the voting booth and we should be voting for new candidates. Even though, and I support reparations, I want to say this because America is a special country, and we had a horrible start, and I don't think we've ever had a time period where we haven't actually mistreated people in this country, and we treated people with dignity and respect. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong.
100% correct. I just want to add one thing to that, which is that, you know, Christina is advocating for reparations. Chibu, I see, is co-signing that. But I want to be very clear, that is a Green Party agenda item, and the Green Party is the first and only party to substantively address the reparations issue, demand reparations as a necessary piece of any democratic society, right? So please understand, if you're thinking about reparations as your issue, the Green Party is way ahead. I mean, miles, decades ahead, even of the Democrats, and obviously a lifetime ahead of the Republicans. But continue, please. I just wanted to make that clear.
So we are a melting pot of a country at the end of the day, and we are in such a special situation where we also have to represent, the entire world looks at us, so we have to represent every citizen's family member and every citizen's country that lives here. So we can't be spending billions of dollars and bombing and annihilating our citizens' family members overseas, because in New Jersey, for example, over about, I want to say it was like over 1,000 Palestinians were killed that had family ties to New Jersey. And I remember the Palestinian Americans, they went to Trenton and they were in tears. And it was a group of them, and they were saying, please stop, please advocate for a ceasefire. We don't want our families getting killed. And that same day, Murphy did not side with the people, the Palestinians, the Palestinian Americans that voted him in. It's and in this country right now, Palestinians and people who voice their support for them, there's a punishment, and there's no humanity, and they're not even viewed as people. But getting back to our geopolitical view, is we are now the world's number one enemy. And what we have to do is we have to work on diplomatic peace and communication, because we want to be the number one and in everything. We want the world to look at us when it comes to education, when it comes to climate reform, when it comes to prison reform, when it comes to maternal care, when it comes to humanitarian aid. So that's where we have the power, and we can have that infrastructure, and we can really build upon that and be the number one friend instead of the number one enemy.
Keaton said it's ridiculous we're even talking about voting green when people's civil rights and civil liberties are on the ballot this election, when the Green Party know they have no chance in hell. So a couple of things. One, Keys, again, we're talking right now about down ballot elections. I don't understand how voting for a Green Party member for city council or mayor or, you know, governor, or in this case, Congress, both the House and the Senate, respectively, undermines people's access to civil rights or civil liberties. I'm just baffled by that.
Yeah, and I would like to say something too.
Yeah.
So my friend Renee, she's part of, I forgot what organization. She actually did the research. The Democrats opened up 69 cop cities across the entire country. And if we're
Yep.
talking about civil liberties, unfortunately, I had the experience of working with the prison system, and you have, I'll call them ghosts. You have living ghosts, people who are lost in the prison system, and that you can see them, and it'll say that they had a release date of like 5 years ago or 10 years ago, and they're not out of prison. And unfortunately, because of contracts, you can't really say too much about that. Now I don't work for them anymore, so I can say what I want, really. And in this country, you don't actually have to commit a crime to go to prison for years. So if we're talking about civil liberties, if you're poor or a person of color or part of a marginalized community, you have no civil liberties at all. And it's just astonishing, because I want to be able to go out and not have to worry about whether I have enough money if something happens. But when I have people come to me and say, I can't afford a lawyer, they're telling me to plea out, and they're saying this, that, and the third. And I'm thinking, if you plead out, you're still going to jail, and you never did this. This is the most ridiculous thing that I ever heard of. And so if we're talking about civil liberties, there are so many people that don't even have human rights yet. Before that, there's civil liberties. So yeah, I want to kind of bring humanity back into everything. So there's it's gone for so many people already.
That's for sure. Keys Kit says, I don't sound scared at all. I sound logical. It sounds idiotic if you guys even thinking about you have a chance when you don't have no one to help you when you get into the house. So it's interesting, right? Because it started with you can't get in. Now it's, well, you can't get nobody to help you when you get in, which also just isn't true. Bernie Sanders has run as an independent and he caucuses with Democrats. You could come in as a Green Party member and caucus with other people. You could strategically organize and vote with Democrats when it makes sense, but also you can push back against Democrats when it doesn't make sense, because you're not beholden to the Democratic Party. You're not beholden to their power structure. Nancy Pelosi or now Hakeem Jeffries doesn't own you in the same way. Oh, a cute cat. I love cats. Democrats don't be bringing cats on. I love it. I love it. I love it. So these are all things to think about. We've talked about Middle East a little bit. So if you were in Congress right now, and the question comes, do you fund the Iron Dome? Do you send money? Do you send what do you say? Is it a complete not embargo? Is it a complete what's the word? My brain's not moving fast today, but you completely cut them off from money. Embargo. The arms embargo, and then also a financial kind of. Is it $0 to Israel? Where do you stand?
The Illinois Green Party. Well, the Green Party is a spectrum, and so personally, yeah, I don't like foreign aid. I understand human humanitarian aid and like food aid. So we don't need to be monsters. But I do with Thomas Massey, we need to be consistent. We don't need to fund the Iron Dome in this way. We don't need to be sending them gifts, which they're gifts. They're just money away. I would say at this current moment, yes, before the election, if I was currently in office, particularly since they're in like a recess, I'm telling them to stop all the arms.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
Right. Yeah, I'm with Chibu on this one. If we're going to be, and now the foreign aid that should be sent, and like we have to clean up the waters and land in Palestine and Congo, we have to rebuild our relationship. So any foreign aid would have to be to benefit the infrastructure that's also going to benefit the U.S. infrastructure. Like for Palestine, we would have to build the pieces to help rebuild their houses and their communities and the medical care and making sure that they get the hospitals and the schools. Anything should be about diplomatic peace, and violence should be the very last thing, only when we need to defend ourselves. So arms embargo and zero aid. Now we just have to clean up the climate mess that our military industrial complex caused.
Yeah.
Where do you all stand on the question of policing? I heard the word reform come out of Chibu's mouth. Surprised me a little bit, only because I'm an abolitionist. But
Oh, I know, sir. What?
so what does the world look like to you all? What does the criminal legal system look like? What does policing look like to you all right now? We all agree that mass incarceration is a problem. We all agree too many people are going to jail. What do we do about it?
One, our current infrastructure, the idea is to be rehabilitate them. However, our that's not currently what's going on, and recidivism, the way we're counting it, isn't particularly helpful. I do love abolition. When I was in college, I had an amazing college professor who asked me in a history of prisons class, how should our society tackle criminal wrongdoing, because it will exist based on whatever details we decide as a community. And that's a question that hasn't been asked for our general public. And I think that's one thing that I would want Congress to actually do within the first 100 days, is having that really tough conversation of what we know that isn't working and ultimately has to change. So what does that look like? I will say that abolition is a long-term goal, and reform are the steps currently that we can have in place to change those things. In Illinois, we have done a lot of reform that has benefited our public, including the pretrial fairness, which hasn't ruined our state.
Tell me what pretrial fairness means.
Yeah, so in Illinois, we no longer have cash bail. And as a result, it means that if you have been like charged or arrested, but you're not like a threat to the community, you're not a harm to yourself, and it was like a misdemeanor, based on the judge's idea, you can be let go until your next hearing. And so that is one part of keeping people who don't need to be incarcerated, and then also allowing people to be free. So if you haven't been charged, like if you've been charged but you haven't been made guilty under the law, again with like the spectrum of the Green Party, in the libertarian ideology, which I also like appreciate, you are you're innocent until proven guilty. You have a right to continue to work, benefit our society, contribute, care for your kids, do whatever. Like, you are a free person, and we shouldn't just keep you in jail because you don't have the money. So that's the idea. If you didn't have the means to afford a large bail, and if you're not a threat, and it's generalized, so it's everybody. You don't have to have a special consideration. You don't need to know the police officer's friend. You don't need to have this thing to get you out. Everyone gets it. And then if there's like a question, the judge has some kind of say. And so far, the judges have has been fine. I've read all the different articles over it. But yeah, 1.5 years, still going strong.
Go figure. Christina, what's the biggest issue going on in New Jersey that you want to tackle as a member of the U.S. Senate?
You know what? Personally, I want to tackle that we are moving toward a private prison industry in New Jersey, and that's been under wraps. And the other thing is, New Jersey passed a law, I forgot what year. If a police officer has PTSD, they are still allowed to serve on the force. So PTSD was not a requirement for them to actually take time off. And when they do need to take time off, they're only allowed like 2 days, which is like the craziest thing that, as a mental health professional, to even say. So I would have to say the private prison industry, and actually the corruption, because anyone in New Jersey knows it's the machine that runs everything. But also, I just want to highlight, I see a lot, like, I do support holding police officers accountable, but what a lot of people fail to realize is it's the politicians that have created all this. So the same way where people are holding officers accountable, I want to see people hold the politicians accountable as well, because they created the mess that's currently happening. So I want to take private corporations out. I know they're reopening some ICE detention centers in New Jersey, and I think they're planning to build some more. And I want to remove the private prison industry as well. So, but I also feel like people can't hold officers accountable without holding the politicians who create the laws and the rules and the freedom for these officers as well.
education is a conversation that comes up a lot.
Yeah.
What do we do about this nation's education system? And you could be happy with it. I don't want to be presumptuous here.
No, it's horrible. I haven't paid my student debt back, and they keep saying they're going to my credit score, and I'm just like, go right ahead, just add to it, right? I'm like, I'm not buying a house in this market anyway, right?
I'm dead.
There's a comedian who said, like, my credit's so fucked up already. What, you gonna staple some shit to my credit report? Like, my credit report's already messed up.
Yeah. So, but when it comes to education, we should really be funding it. And anybody that says like,
who's we?
The federal government should be taking care of it. And the reason being, we want to have the smartest people in the country. We want to have people, number one, when it comes to healthcare, number one, when it comes to mental health. We want people, number one, when it comes to architecture and building buildings. We want our infrastructure and everything to be number one. So to say only a small select few of people deserve an education while the rest of the people do not because they just happen to be poor, horrible. We need to make this an equal education for all, because that's how we grow as a country, and that's how we create cures for diseases, or build a better New Jersey transit, or have more art and create better climate renewal infrastructure. We want more scientists, we want more researchers, we want more people to live their life to the fullest without barriers. And that is a barrier. I don't know if a politician wants this country to have the dumbest people, you need to vote them out. And this also covers trade school as well.
Sure.
There's a couple quick questions coming in I want to take before we wrap. I saw one person specifically ask, and I'm trying to pull it up because it was it was a really good question. Of course, now it just blanked on me. But I'll jump to one of the super chat questions. A lot of people talk about the Green Party needing to get 5% of the vote. How will the Greens build power if they receive the 5%, and how is that calculated?
Okay, so we in New Jersey, we have committees. I'm not part of a committee, but they would be the ones in charge of working with national, the state. So national would be in charge of splitting up the money equally. My job is to try and win, and my job is to build our infrastructure right now. So I'm not even there yet, but I would assume it'd be national working with the state parties to split that up.
Right, and just for clarity's sake, the idea of power building is that federal funding comes when you get 5%. So now, if you get $10 million for a party like the Green Party, which doesn't have big donations, doesn't have the big corporate money behind us, that $10 million that goes to ads, that goes to campaign building, that allows, we could literally actually fund a campaign that could win. If you look at the amount of money that was put into removing Cori Bush from St. Louis or removing Jamal Bowman from New York, AIPAC will dump 10, 20, $30 million into a campaign to make sure that they win. This gives us the money to fight back.
Yeah.
So think about that when you think about a Green Party person potentially winning. When we Chibu, when we talk about education, in addition to student loan debt, what else should we be thinking about in terms of taxation as well? If you want to speak to that, please do. But what should we think about in terms of making education, making schools better for our young people?
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what Christina said. I think from an Illinois perspective, and maybe a Midwestern perspective even, there is a problem where our students aren't always thriving in the traditional school context as they have it set up, and the constant standardized testing, the constant sit down, you don't get to play, you don't get to move. All these things are a part of the active defunding of our education, which is why we have not the smartest children and things like that, which I think all of our students have all the brightest potentials and everything. But we want critical thinkers. And So what I really want to see happen on a national level and national scale is a conversation with our public school teachers, our charter school teachers, the private and the Montessori schools, and start looking at all the many, many, many different ways that we can educate and produce like citizens, trade people, everyone under the sun, because it all has value, and allow for that like the flexibility, which is part of why higher education needs to be also attainable and free, secondary school and all that fun stuff. But yeah, in Illinois, something that I want to kind of touch on, since it's the bigger audience, is this like male loneliness crisis has been something that is a conversation here.
Say more.
So yeah, so I'm basically, as like a woman, what the problem is, there is an idea and a phenomenon that we're seeing where the men in our communities are always single. They like don't care about themselves, or they live with their parents, and they don't have like women to care for. They don't have partners if they're queer. And there's this worry that the men in our lives aren't being allowed to be the like masculine machismo, be who like boys will be boys kind of thing. Like if you want them to be like they're not as smart, and then women are being more educated and are expected to attain higher and higher things. And so if you are in, again, the industrial Midwest, where you may be like a union person, or you're a BSW, so building service worker, a lot of the unions are. So if you are like a tradesperson, you may have a wife or a woman who has like a master's degree, and then that could create tensions in the household. That's how our conversations end up having it all the time, at least. I'm in a lot of Republican spaces and libertarian spaces, so that is something that has been a constant conversation. And it's the problem of like feminists these days. But I think that if we allowed girls to be girls and boys to be boys, and created a society where we held everyone together with the education, with the healthcare, with the opportunities to be who they are, then our society will end up producing the ultimate end result, which is couples and then children for my community.
That is a take that, again, and this is what makes the Green Party very controversial to some, but also very promising to some, is radical ideas and ideas that aren't always shared by the entire party. So it's a very interesting space to be. There's a question, and we have to run, but there's a question that I want to take from Zakia here, and I keep losing it, but I swear she was asking. I want to bring it up, but she was asking about the party's stance on abortion. And again, there are moments where the party has a position, and there are moments where people in the party have different positions. But there is a party stance on this. I want to talk a little bit about sort of how we think and talk about abortion, reproductive justice more broadly, and what that means to you all. This was a question from Zakia Simpson. Christina, I'll start with you.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm pro-choice, and Green Party is pro-choice, but also we have to talk about how the economy currently is, and because of the lack of infrastructure, and how inflation is actually forcing people that want kids and forcing them to get abortions, because we are not a kid friendly country. So we have people that when they see that positive test, they know that their job's going to probably fire them. Then they're going to lose their health insurance. Are they going to be homeless? So people have real fears when it comes to having kids. And we want to make the infrastructure and just the function much easier, which in turn would reduce abortion, and that would help promote a healthy, ensure a healthier healthier option for individuals that want to have kids. But at the end of the day, it's the individual person's choice whether they want to, have the child or not. We just want to make it where, if they want to have the kid, all hands on deck. And
what should an abortion law look like? Until what month should people be able to have abortions?
Well, it also depends. Is the baby dead inside them at month 8 because
No, I mean under normal medical conditions. Obviously, the Republicans are always trying to sneak in they want abortions at 9th and 10th month, which is obviously not true and also misleading, even to the extent that there is a hair of truth to it. It's often about babies that are no longer viable or alive. But someone gets pregnant and says, "Hey, I want to have a baby. I don't want to have a baby." Some people say 8 weeks, some people say 16 weeks, some people say 12 weeks, some people say 30 weeks. What do you say?
I don't have a time frame. I would advise a lot of therapy. It would be mental health. Why are they making a decision, especially if it's late term? Is there DV involved? Is this a safety issue? Is there a medical concern? Because we need to make sure everybody's safe at the end of the day. And then if someone, I've come across this, if somebody has tried in recovery and they have relapsed at like 4 months, they're like, I can't keep the kid because I've relapsed and I know I'm not ready to stop. They've made that hard decision. So that's where I'm at. It would be more of a mental health intervention and making sure that there's support, because people might go in for abortions and with the intervention, they would most likely be able to have the support to change their mind or get the help, because maybe they might have lost their home and they're just like, I can't, I don't want to lose, I'm homeless. I don't want to give birth while I'm homeless. So I've dealt with more of the crisis situation.
Yeah.
So just making sure, that there's proper infrastructure and proper interventions in place, because usually when there's support, it's a huge amount of time that's going to help give a safer option.
Chibu, what say
you? 20 to 24 weeks. I definitely understand the larger exceptions of like incest and harm and all those things. Ultimately, it will need to be within the conversation of an individual, that family, and their medical providers. But yeah, I think that the National Green Party perspective is we would not allow there to be a national abortion ban. I want to make that clear. I think that coming from a compromise or Midwestern perspective, Illinois perspective, 20 to 24 weeks has been solid. And in Illinois, while our pro-life folks definitely have some feelings about the law, we ultimately want to make sure that every person who wants to become a mother gets to become a mother if they would like.
Yes.
Or other childbearing identities, right?
Yes. Also, all folks who don't want to be parents, and that's also part of why it's important to, like Christina said, is creating the infrastructure where all kinds of families can thrive. Yeah. Mixed families, multiple generational families, and all that kind of stuff. And it will be in the family's conversation. And if a child or like makes sense, or if you have to, if whatever that ends up looking at, particularly if it's an elected, because that's a conversation that we're having. But yeah, 20 to 24 weeks. Wait, Mark, there's a comment that I've wanted to say.
Yeah.
That about like, where are the TV ads? TV ads are expensive, and I say that because earlier in the conversation, it was like Green Party people never win. Well, that's not true.
It's not true.
It's not true. And I also want to say, like, it's not true because in 2 years, when everyone this cycle said, we want you to be able to be on the ballot, but yes, it's Trump. So if this was an election year, then yeah, I probably could have won. Also, I'm a write-in candidate because the ballot signature requirements are so high here in Illinois, which is why we need ballot reform and election reform. And it's meant to keep third parties out. A reporter had recently asked me at a League of Women Voters meet and greet, like, do you think that you could win? And I told her, no, I'm young, it's fine, it's not that deep, but I'm going to keep going. And I said, like, but I could have if I was on the ballot. If you saw my name, I have absolutely no doubt that like the phone calls I would be getting, the invitations I would be getting. Mm-hmm.
I'm glad you said that, because this is the question. This will be our last question. Bullet the Bunny asked, What is the Green Party's long-term plan for universal ballot access nationwide?
Implementing what we see in other countries and in other states and other cities nationwide. We would want to have consistent and not even equitable, consistent and easy ballot access. So if you're part of a party, if you're independent, if you are nonpartisan, you should be able to run for office and not have to be behind a major political party who are private organizations that can do whatever they want and don't need to be beholden to their voters, which is what they've said in their contracts and in the lists, And so implementing ranked choice voting. If you don't like ranked choice voting, having conversations about what we could do with star voting, which is another way to rank your voices and to have your voices be made. But yeah, it will be an overhaul of this system. It will also include a conversation. Thank you. It will also include a conversation of like the electoral college. In Illinois, I keep coming back to this. It hurts to feel like your vote doesn't matter. And all of you people who say your vote doesn't matter, my vote doesn't matter in the middle of a progressive district, in the middle of Illinois, which is a blue vote matter who kind of place. Like, I get that. So maybe we want our voices to change. Maybe we don't want the electoral college anymore. And that will be a part of the nationwide conversation.
That's it. A nationwide conversation is what we need to have. We got to keep pushing this issue. We got to keep fighting for election victories, not just presidential election victories, but up and down the ballot. One of my critiques of the Green Party has been a lack of growth at local balloting. I'm not a Green Party member because I want to show up every 4 years and grandstand. I'm a Green Party member because I believe in our vision. I believe in our platform, and I believe that we can win. But it has to happen state by state, city by city, locale by locale. And we can do that by electing people like Christina and Chibu to office. So I'm grateful for them. I'm grateful to you two for joining me tonight. And everybody go to their websites, Chibu for Illinois, Khalil for Senate.com. Go to those places and check them out, support them, donate. Again, y'all say there's no ads. There's ads when there's ad money. That's how we support. I'm going to drop something in for both of these candidates tonight. And I'm grateful to both of them for, again, spending some time tonight. But more importantly, we're taking up the mantle of running on a vision and an agenda and a strategy to make the world freer than it is right now. Christina, Chibu, thanks so much for joining me. Everybody, thanks so much for watching Office Hours. We'll be here next week once again, as always. In the meantime, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and hit that join button. Become a monthly subscriber to the channel so that we can continue to build and fight and show corporate media that they are not the only game in town. Join me tomorrow night for a special night school. We got Norm Finkelstein, we got Susan Abulhawa, and we got some other folk joining us for a very special but obviously somber October 7th commemoration. We'll talk soon. See you tomorrow.